Hello from the hospital basement. Thank you for joining me on the feed. It is very dark here, but it's actually not that dark in Abu Dhabi itself. So be patient with me. In a few minutes, let me get across this basement and get out, and then you'll be able to see me better. Excuse me, but as I always say, does it even matter? Does it even matter? So today has been one of those days where I have spent the day with my obs gynae and then ended up in radiology for quite a bit, and now I am finally heading home. And every I come here and I have these conversations because I have realized that a lot of people on this page appreciate those conversations because those are conversations that are often not had. Yeah, those conversations are often not had. The reason why these conversations are often not had is because it's a heavy topic, isn't it? Right. So the reason why I see my obs gynae is because I am a woman of African origin, and it seems to be one of our things, whether it's to do with our diet, whether it's to do with other patterns of behavior, I couldn't tell you. But fibroids seem to be the order of the day for a lot of women in my community, and I discovered. So a lot of my situations are actually with the obs gynae. I have PCOS, which means that an obs gynae my obs gynae and I have got to the point where when I'm done with the appointment, I kiss her and I tell her I love her, and she tells me she loves me and I tell her I love her more. That's where we have got to, because we engage on some very, very deep topics very often. Anyway, so today I have spent the whole day with her and done a scan, and she's just sent me off with a lovely referral to go have a second opinion with a surgeon so we can have serious conversations around certain things. So in December she sent me for an MRI, and at the time she wasn't sure how I was going to cope, and she wanted to do the observations for the 6 months. Today she was telling me, so why do you think I sent you to have the MRI at that time? I had the MRI done so that it will be available for a day such as this when I make the referral to go see somebody. And in December, actually, the surgeon I'm going to see was actually right next door to her. Today I've got to find him somewhere else. Anyway, I was talking to a few friends on this page, especially when I have conversations around my medical situations, and I realized that it's a healthy conversation to have with a lot of you because these conversations are not happening in any other spaces. It is quite rare, apparently, for people to bring medical situations and have conversations around these medical situations. And because it's not done, those who happen to be dealing with these medical situations begin to think that it is unique to them, and it's probably they are the only odd cases who It is nice for things like this to come into the open, for people to find how common this is. I was talking to a Ugandan friend of mine recently, and as we were talking, my Ugandan friend was like, whoa, hold on, this is also so common in Uganda. Like, well, I didn't know about Uganda, but I could have told you that because I've spoken to a lot of people across the southern part of Africa, around the western part of Africa, where majority of my African friends come from, and it's a common theme. So it's no surprise that in Uganda you have the same problem with fibroids and PCOS and anyway. Today I want to talk to you about what is supposed to be a harmless thing that is not harmless. Reproductive situations, they seem very harmless. So when I first got diagnosed with PCOS, the concern there was fertility. That was the only thing that was actually flagged up as an issue, because actually at that time that was the prime concern. Sadly, I didn't pick up the notion that it was just the prime concern. I thought it was the only concern. So when I then successfully had the 2 children I wanted and didn't want anymore, guess what my attitude was? Meh. Oh, PCOS, meh. My fertility is dipping. My ovarian function was dipping. Doesn't matter. I don't want any children. Who? Ha ha. You. How I wish that I had the alternative conversation and I had known that PCOS is a medical emergency of epic proportions. Medical emergency of epic proportions. Didn't know it at that time. Anyway, same thing. When I first discovered I had fibroids, I had fibroids. Okay. My belly has always protruded. Okay. And my belly has protruded. I always knew that it was diastasis recti, and it is diastasis recti to a large extent. So because I had something to pin it to, diastasis recti, that was the only thing that I was interested in. And as usual, diastasis recti, done. Okay. It wasn't until I began to do routine checks that we did an ultrasound, and I discovered that I had numerous fibroids in the uterus. At the time, they were just multiple annoying little fibroids. Over the last 3 years, one of them has particularly grown. It's 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters almost, give or take. So it's literally that big of a fibroid. And every time we look at it, we laugh. I have shed again recently, and it turns out today when they took the measurement, I have shed off about 2 centimeters of it on one side. Again, when a fibroid sits there and a fibroid is fibroiding, it doesn't seem like a dangerous thing until the fibroid decides to shed. Obviously, when the fibroid decides to shed, you bleed. When you bleed excessively, well, you lose blood. When you're a normal person, that's a problem. That is a problem. Losing blood is a problem. But when you have chronic anemia, like I do, and the reasons why I have chronic anemia, we are still investigating. The latest one I was told is that it's some autoimmune response to something. I don't know what kind of autoimmune nonsense that is, but I have chronic anemia, and my chronic anemia has not been helped by my stupid fibroids deciding to bleed. When the fibroids bleed, they don't bleed for a day, they bleed for weeks. I think the longest has been a 6-week bleed, 6 solid weeks of uninterrupted bleeding. 6 weeks. And when they decide to clump and shed, ooh, now that is the scariest of them all. That is the scariest of them all. Anyway, so I'm monitoring these stupid things. Hysterectomy was mentioned at some point, and my whatever tummy was also mentioned at some point. I've had a few tummies suggested, and essentially it is the extent to which removal is done. Do they just cut off the stupid fibroids and maintain my uterus? And I was talking to my obs-gynae today, and I asked her, and she's busy talking to me about all the things that we need to do to preserve a uterus. I'm listening to her, nodding along, smiling, and I'm like, okay, at some point, can you please explain to me the benefit of all this effort to try and maintain a uterus? And she says, what? Like, yeah. Right now, all I'm waiting for in life is to be a grandmother, and that doesn't need me to have a uterus. That will be using other people's uteruses. So why is it that it needs to be such a big effort for me to try and hang on to a uterus. She burst out laughing, and then we got talking about the reasons why a lot of women refuse treatment. A lot of women apparently delay and refuse treatment, and it's something to do with maintaining femininity. I'm like, what? Yeah, when a lot of women say that when you remove their uterus, there's no difference between them and a man. Really? I know people had that with the mastectomies, and that makes sense. Like, your chest should be bulged out typically as a woman, and a man's is not bulged out. Okay, I get that with mastectomy. But even then, when it is to do with saving your life, putting your life on the line or saving your life, I would much rather look like a man and be a man and alive than to be a dead woman. That's my thinking. But yeah, apparently there are women who should have their fibroids and their uteruses taken, who don't want to have their fibroids and uteruses taken. And the reason for not wanting their fibroids and uteruses taken is because it would make them masculine. And it brings me back to society and its norms and its behavior around women. And it's a society as a collective, not just the men. The women ourselves are just as bad in propagating some of this garbage, which gets ourselves and our sisters to this point. Anyway, listen, what I really want to say is that as you age, you will end up with medical situations. When those medical situations emerge, the best thing to do is to be pragmatic in dealing with them. Pragmatic in dealing with them. The pragmatism is to use all means to get you the best outcome possible. I am bleeding. I am bleeding. I am becoming anemic. That is dangerous. That could raise a lot of medical emergencies. One of the ways in which we can deal with it, and for me it's not even the aesthetics. Yes, we were just saying that I can continue to grow this fibroid for the next maybe 6 years before I am fully done with menopause. And it will only get better. It's 10 centimeters now. When it doubles in size, and then what? She was telling me that I'm very lucky that all of mine is still under my navel at the moment, and it can extend to the top. And I'm asking myself, so why? Why am I going to be on? We could deal with this with hormone therapy. I'm like, what? It's because when your estrogen levels are elevated, like, okay, so am I going to be here counting estrogen for the rest of my life? What is this? And for the sake of the quality of my life and the peace of mind that transcends all understanding, I am electing to begin a journey towards a particular end. And it's funny when I talk to friends and family, and even here on social media around this, there is this knee-jerk, illogical fear that I get all the time. Especially considering that the main treatment for this is surgical. Many surgical procedures are mentioned. But bearing the risks of the surgical procedure, I think about the long-term risks of my anemia. And I think that my long-term risk of anemia is more scary than the risk even of surgery. The discomfort of bleeding for 3 weeks, like I currently am. Right now, I've been very lucky. I had iron infusion, so today she's taking my iron levels, and we're going to have a look and see if my levels are dipping and we need to get iron in ASAP. Then we do, before the ions dip below where they're supposed to dip and the issues begin. wish these conversations become the norm in our communities, so that when people get to these bridges, one, you realize that you are not alone. You are not alone, especially if you're a woman who looks like me and you are around my age and this happens. You are not alone. You are not alone. It's more typical than you would think. When some of these decisions arrive at your table, you are not alone. It is a common decision many people make. And in fact, the most obvious, most logical thing to choose to do in these situations, funnily enough, tends to be what most people do. But for some reason, most of us think that we are the only ones who are called upon to make this. A friend was given an emergency hysterectomy to save her life. And for the next how many months, she spent her life spiraled into this. She became terribly depressed because her uterus had been taken out. And yeah, at that time, this particular friend was nearly 50. Nearly 50. The reason why those situations freak people out is because these conversations are not had. And so she thought that she was the only one. It wasn't until the conversation came up and 3 of our other friends said that they had had elective hysterectomies. They had elected to do it. And yes, none of us knew that these friends had had hysterectomies. Why? Because each person kept it quiet. Each person didn't want to discuss it. And so when it was forced on this other one, it was this terrible thing. And she could not bear to tell the rest of us that her uterus had been taken. And I just burst out and I said to her, well, mine is still intact, full of fibroids. It's completely useless anyway. If I were to get pregnant, this baby will not have anywhere to even sit. There is no space for the stupid baby to sit. Besides, my ovaries are firing blanks anyway. Chances of any conception is going to be... So my chances of conception are 0. My chances of carrying to term are very nearly 0. So what's the point of my blooming uterus hanging there right now? And we all laughed about it, and it made it into a normal situation, what this should have been in the first place. It is normal. When you get to late 30s, 40s, and you start seeing funny things with your sugar levels, especially when you are from where I'm from and you look like I do, it's not a shock. When your blood pressure starts creeping up in your 50s, it is also not a shock. It is not a shock. When your cholesterol level starts creeping up on the approach to 40 and beyond, it is not a shock. It is not a shock. I have been prescribed atorvastatin. I was prescribed atorvastatin in my late 30s. I wasn't even that close to 40. Maybe 37-ish was the first time I was prescribed atorvastatin. But because I had been around and I had listened to the rubbish reportage around statins when they first came out, and I had not really spoken to people that I knew who had been on statins, when I was prescribed atorvastatin, I was devastated, absolutely devastated, and didn't want to take them. To be fair, the side effects I saw of atorvastatin, atorvastatin was not nice. But again, now I've seen a lot of my friends who are prescribed atorvastatin, and when they are prescribed atorvastatin, I would say to them, well, I was prescribed atorvastatin ages ago. And they're like, really? Yeah. And when you took it, what happened? This and this and this and this is what happened. But to actually have the opportunity to know that some friends of yours have also been on similar medications that you are on, glucophage. I was in a room with a group of friends and it became a joke. Everybody had an experience of glucophage. Everybody. those with PCOS are prescribed glucophage as part of our medical treatment. As part of our treatment plan, a lot of us are prescribed glucophage. The reason being that PCOS leads to insulin resistance, which can lead very easily to type 2 diabetes. So those of us who are PCOS were on glucophage. Those who were pre-diabetic were on glucophage. And those who were actually diabetic had been on glucophage and had been upgraded to other things. So the conversation quickly became, oh, you people, glucophage is just the baby medication for diabetes treatment. And we're like, what? Glucophage is for babies. Really? What happens after glucophage? And this person is like, this happens after glucophage. And this drug is the next one. And eventually when you become diabetic, when you are diabetic and you don't know how to manage it and it's spiraling out of control, you are giving this and you are giving that. And those who were on glucophage and were busy hiding the fact that they were on glucophage discovered that everybody in the room was on glucophage. Everybody was on glucophage. Some of us on XR, some of them on 500 mils, on 1,000 mils, didn't matter, but on glucophage nonetheless. And that day, around that table, a lot of people who would have treated their treatment plans as scary things, as a disgusting thing that was happening to just them, rather than a normal experience that seems to be age related and linked to your origins. So yeah, Japanese people will not have the same patterns that the sub-Saharan Africans are having. So it's nice for the sub-Saharan Africans to have these conversations and to see the parallels and similarities, and for us to find out, actually, and more importantly, also to understand. It wasn't until I started engaging in these conversations with my friends that we realized that the fibroids thing has got to do with a lot of things. At the moment, the hunch that we have is to do with corn. A friend of mine is researching this, but yeah, they think that it's something to do with corn, and that corn elevates estrogen levels, and it's elevated estrogen levels that seems to feed these fibroids to get them to grow. So obviously people who are corn eaters, if this were true, I'm not saying it's proven, it's just a hunch, it's somebody's research hunch. If it's proven that corn is the issue, and soya and a few of these other things, it's not just corn, but yeah, a lot of these seeds that most West Africans eat, we eat it as a staple 3 times, 2 times a day, constantly. It would make sense for our women to have this. And so again, when you discover that corn might be a problem, and I love corn, I can boil corn, I can fry corn, I can pop it, I can grill it, I can even bake it, you know, corn. Anything to do with corn, I'm all over it. But it might well become a thing for me to start looking. And so some years ago, I actually cut back. When I first started my treatment plan, I cut back on all the corn. And I started using cabbage and cauliflower to make my swallows and to eat them. And that did me a world of good. It really did help me a lot. Yeah, understanding some of these things will help you to make better choices. But you must have conversations with your people in order to come to some of these realizations. You must come to the discussion table. You must put yourself out there and invite others to do the same, so that you can compare notes and come to these conclusions. That's what I'm trying to say to all of you right now. Listen, it is so important. So important that we don't hide in our closets as change is coming. Now, there are a lot of women who are creating content in their early 50s and through their 50s, and I am so grateful for those women. Those women are helping me to understand what my 50s could bring. And I'm hoping that some of these conversations I have here are also helping those behind me, those in their 30s, in their approach to 40s. You may hear some of these conversations that will draw your attention to certain things. At the very least, prepare you for some of these conversations that you may well have when you hit the age. My mother did not know really about menopause. She only knew the textbook signs. The hot flashes, my mother didn't know. She didn't know. Nobody in our community put themselves out there, really. She found out as she went along. But as for me, I haven't even got there. I'm perimenopausal, but I know so much about perimenopause and menopause itself now already that I am already preparing. I will need to do vitamin supplements, that's for sure. This year for Christmas, I am buying myself a bed cooling system. Cool your bed, not the room. Yeah, that's the principle, because no room is going to be cool enough apparently as we go along. So I'm buying a bed cooling system, a bed temperature regulation system, so that it can regulate the temperature and keep cool and fresh for me to sleep. And my understanding is that should help me to sleep longer, because one of the reasons why I am beginning to wake and my insomnia is getting worse over time is because of the overheating. Yes, I have the sleep apnea and the rest of them, which are issues, and those ones need to be handled. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's just the temperature, but that contributes and it adds to a factor. How do I know? It's because I am watching a lot of content made by women ahead of me. I am talking to a lot of women ahead of me, and I am understanding what is to come. So that today when I sat with my doctor and she discussed treatment plans with me, nothing was a surprise. When she finally made a referral and she gave me my letter, I took it and I had a smile on my face. It didn't daunt me. It did not daunt me, because it was not a surprise. It was not a surprise. I know many people who are going through or have gone through the same treatment plan for similar conditions to mine. And so when she brought it up, I'm like, okay, all right, bring it on. And now we have decisions to maintain what and to not maintain what. That's what we are discussing, rather than me in denial. For her as a treating physician, it was very nice, she said, to have somebody who is realistic and pragmatic about what needs to happen. And it was wonderful for me as a patient also to be given options that I understand. To be given options that I know. Options that I recognize, so that they make sense. And I don't need to panic. I don't need to worry. I can be confident that the treatment I am receiving makes sense. That is the purpose of these videos, the health-based videos. I have them to put into the spaces information for those who will need it, hopefully ahead of time. Or if you are somebody who's undergoing diagnosis and you are being offered treatment plans, hopefully when you hear these conversations, it will help you to understand how your treating physicians are making decisions, maybe help you to know that the decisions your treating physicians are making are not too different from what others are making, and it might give you confidence to make decisions around what you should do and should not do. At the moment, everybody who sees me asks me if I'm in pain. A few years ago, they used to ask me if I was bleeding. At that time, I wasn't bleeding. But when I started bleeding, it freaked the heck out of me. And then I remembered, oh, everybody was asking me about bleeding. So, okay, it makes sense. It makes sense. The first time that I felt a clump of the fibroid drop, I was so scared. I was so scared. I had never seen anything like it before. But then I went to my community of sisters and I told them what has happened. Two of them burst out laughing straight up. Girl, it's the fibroids. I'm like, huh? Your fibroids are bleeding. Yeah. But I said, it's not blood, it's clumps. They're like, yep. Those are chunks of the fibroids which are falling off. And yes, they do so with a lot of blood. Like, right. Makes sense. Anyway, I love you. I love you loads. I hope that these conversations I have with you, they serve you. I want them to serve you. I pray that your decision making is made better as a result of these conversations. And if you watch this video and you know anybody who is undergoing diagnosis and treatment and could deal with hearing another person's perspective, tag them. Those of you with wives, even if your wives are young, I think it's important for the young wives to hear some of these conversations and for them to know these things in advance. It's always helpful to have information ahead of when you need it. There's nothing worse in this life than finding out information after you needed it. That is useless information. Yeah. You would like information to be made available. So where is this idiot speeding to? That's the lamentations of a woman undergoing my treatments. And if you happen to be like me and you hit a certain point where your weight is yo-yoing and it predisposes you to making your medical conditions difficult, I highly recommend that you do something to shift some of that weight. Go and see anybody and everybody who can help you. And try anything and everything until you are helped. Me? I have no judgment for anybody who does whatever they think they need to do in order to make living their life easier for them. They live in their bodies, not me. I see people get so mad about other people making decisions about their own body. Like, waiting concern crayfish. What is your own? How is this your issue? And why do you have such invested feelings in somebody else's decisions around their body? Anyway, apparently we are no longer women when we have a hysterectomy. Okay, fine. Send me my pair of balls. I've always wanted a pair. I think that I should have been a man. My life would have been so much easier if I was a man. My thinking is masculine. Apparently, somebody said to me, you look like a man. I'm like, oh, does your dad look like me? If your dad looks like me, it's not me who looks like a man. It's your dad who has hormonal issues, because I actually do think I look very feminine. I don't know many men with rosy cheeks like my own. And then she comes back, your voice is as deep as a man. I'm like, the thing you are commenting on is not the depth of my voice, it's the command behind my voice. And the only people you know in your life with command are men. Oh, it's a shame. It's a shame. Yes, there are women in places who are comfortable and confident enough and have enough persona and aura to be able to command. So yeah, apparently I sound like a man, I look like a man. It would have been nice to have a pair. If I had a pair, oh. If I were a boy, even just for a day. No, I don't want to be a boy. If I were a man, even just for a day. Oh, what would I do? What are the manly things you people do? Tell me. I want to know. If I were a man, even just for a day. I'll listen to her. We get these people to come and clean my car, because my car is a mess. Hiya. Can you please come with me and wash my car in my house? No English. Let me get out of the way for him. That was going to be odd. No English. Need to know Arabic. So then what is going to happen? Let me go and find those who have English. It looks me deadpan and tells me no English in fluent English. No English. Anyway, listen, you guys are excellent company. I'm going to go home and sleep. Sleep. That's what I'm going to do. Pray that your day is proceeding well. I pray for opportunities to come your way and for awareness to be created in you for these opportunities ahead of time, so you don't squander opportunities. I hope that today goes down as one of those very impactful, successful days for you. That the conversations we have here serve you. Please share. And today I got myself the first subscriber in a year. Guys, I'm going back to creating subscriber only content. So can you please subscribe to my page? Your subscriptions help me to fund the tools that I use to create. So do help me to cover that cost, because I do not enjoy having to cover all the costs on my own. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys in a bit.